Hey, everybody, welcome to another edition of the Goldie on Ice podcast, the day between games 1 and 2, where the Panthers lead the Eastern Conference Final now 1-0 over the Rangers after a 3-0 shutout win at Madison Square Garden. Now, the podcast is presented by Amerant Bank. Appreciate their playoff support. You see them popping up all over South Florida. You see the Kachuk commercial and advertisement for that Panthers debit card. Very cool. So go to amarantbank.com and get all of that information, and a big supporter of the Goldie on Ice podcast and all of the content here in the postseason. Also, a big thank you to JetBlue for providing the transportation. JetBlue Vacations do a terrific job. And, I'll be coming home to South Florida on Saturday on JetBlue. Will the Panthers be even? Will they be up 2-0? So first, let's dig into game one a little bit. Suffocating defense by the Panthers. Great forecheck. It really wasn't a nasty physical game, but the key for the Panthers is it was physical enough. Kachuk with a few hits early on Vinny Trocheck, who's kind of that Ranger spark plug. I thought the Panthers did a very good job finishing checks against the Rangers' defense, especially Fox and Lindgren. They got pucks deep, put them in the right places, made them turn a lot, and then were able to finish checks. But the bottom line is, when the game and these games are tight, and you had a good feeling the whole game for the Panthers, but it was either scoreless or 1-0 for, 57 of the 60 minutes. The Panthers' big players, the money players, and I mean that literally and figuratively. Alexander Barkov was just magnificent. Whoever he was on the ice against did nothing. Puck battles, Barkov wins them. Big key to the penalty kill. He was relentless, so strong on pucks, wins those 50-50 battles. Matthew Tkachuk throws the body, scores the goal, gets an assist on the empty netter. Completely overlooked. It's still only a 2-goal game. I know there's not a lot of time left, a minute and a half, but if the Rangers get one, you never know. That was a terrific clear on the backhand, right on the tape for Bennett, who salted the game away. And overall, Tkachuk was terrific. And then Sergei Bobrovsky. And those are the guys that make your big money. Those are your guys that you lean on. And all three of them certainly did their job. But there were no passengers on that Panther team. I thought the defense did a terrific job getting out of their own zone. Panthers didn't spend a lot of time in the zone. Forwards were back supporting. Fourth line, Cousins, Stenlund, and Lomberg had a terrific game. That's one of the best games I've ever seen Ryan Lomberg play. He was on pucks. He was in deep. He was finishing checks, and he's always a spark plug. So, the Panthers certainly have to be pleased with their game one. But this team has matured to the point where they know that it's only one game, and that's really the key. So how do the Rangers respond? Chris Kreider was pretty pointed after the game. Basically, I'm not going to say calling out his team. He did say the ice was no good, which was pretty interesting comment. It's home ice. But, Kreider was basically saying that you got to be willing to go to the dirty areas and play that harder style of game. And that's what it's going to take. Will the Rangers be willing to do it? Do they have the ability to do it over the course of a full series? And that's what makes this Panther team, with 5 series wins the last 2 years, 6 series wins the last 3 years, but really the last 2 years with their style, they can sustain it. They can sustain it through a regular season, and they can sustain it during a playoff series because that's who they are. They don't need to go the extra mile to play that playoff style, that hard-nosed grind, forecheck, get pucks deep, be comfortable in a 1-0 game, because that's what they are all the time. That's their actual makeup. So, do the Rangers have the ability, number one, and do they have the will to play the game in a not fun way, go to the dirty areas, take a little bit of punishment, and grind it? And we're going to find that out on Friday night at 8 o'clock, because we're in the same boat right now that we were in between, in my opinion, in between games 1 and 2 of the Tampa series, in between games 1 and 2 of the series last year against Carolina and Toronto, and the same position is in between games 3 and 4 of the Boston series this year. If the Panthers get up 2 games on you, and it's the first 2 games, is anybody beating this team 4 out of 5? I mean, you got to go back how many times the Panthers since last year's playoffs, lost 4 games out of 5. They did in the Stanley Cup final. It doesn't happen to them often, is my point. So, and you have 3 at home for whatever it's worth, because the Panthers now 5-1 on the road this year, and an incredible 13-2 in the Eastern Conference the last 2 years, last 15 games on the road in the playoffs. Think about that, 13-2 in Boston, New York, Tampa, Toronto. I mean, just incredible. And Sergei Bobrovsky is 12-1 in those games, because you remember Alex Lyon split 2 of them to start last year's playoffs. So I never go with the must-win until, the other team has 3. But realistically, this is a game the Rangers need. Maybe psychologically and certainly from a numbers standpoint, because they go down to Florida at 0-2. I mean, even if the Panthers get a split at home, they got 3 chances to win the thing. So, again, it's only 60 minutes. You don't want to get ahead of yourself. But certainly a very encouraging opening game for the Panthers. But expect Friday night the Rangers to come out flying and put a lot of pressure on, certainly early on. And guys like Trocheck, and maybe they get Rempe in there tomorrow, fire up the crowd. I'm not sure how much he can really do, from a playing standpoint. But I think a few tweaks for Peter Laviolette, maybe a veteran like Blake Wheeler gets there. And for Paul Maurice, I think it's just more of the same. Stay smart, stay disciplined. Only 2 penalties. Really, since the middle of that Tampa series, the Panthers have been phenomenal. Laying off the refs. You don't see or hear complaining. And I know there was one last night. Trocheck was screaming at Steve Kazari, the referee. Panthers get a call or they get the goal taken back. They don't say a word to the officials. In fact, the other way, because after the game, Paul Maurice said, yeah, that was a good call. We wouldn't want that to happen to us. So I think the Panthers have matured in that area as well. Just let the referees do their job. You're not changing their minds anyway, so what's the point of, going at it with them? It's a kind of a waste of energy. Now, there's times where you have to. That too many men on the ice penalty, the Panther bench did not like. You're going to make your case and maybe get a call down the road. So 9 down, 7 to go. But long way to go in this series. Once again, want to thank Amerant Bank, sponsor of the Goldie on Ice podcast and all of my social media content. Goldie on Ice on Instagram and on Twitter, and JetBlue providing the transportation. We'll have the podcast for you daily. Going to try to track someone down, a good guest for you guys. If you didn't listen to the old episodes, we had Randy Moeller on previewing the series, Nick Cousins yesterday. And make sure you follow me on Instagram for all the content. And the Florida Panthers Instagram, Game Day Live Q&As every day, every game day. And I'll interactive with you guys on the Panthers Insta account. And I'll put that information of Game 2 Q&A time on my Twitter, on Goldie on Ice. I probably could have explained that a little bit better. Listen, want to thank you all for the support. Our producer, Brett Markowitz, as well. Panthers lead this Eastern Conference final 1-0 over the Rangers. Talk to you tomorrow, everybody.